In recent years, the world has experienced a sharp retreat from globalization, particularly in the realm of human mobility. While trade and communication continue across borders, governments in many advanced economies are actively restricting immigration. This shift is part of a broader pattern of deglobalisation, driven by post-pandemic recovery challenges, economic nationalism, and public backlash against migration. The cases of the United Kingdom, United States, Australia, and Poland illustrate how states are reshaping migration policy to emphasize national control and deterrence. Notably, this trend is no longer confined to right-wing politics. Even left-leaning and centrist parties are adopting tougher migration policies in response to shifting public sentiment. In the United Kingdom, the Labour government unveiled a white paper in 2025 that aims to reduce net migration to 200,000 annually by 2026. This represents a sharp decline from the record 764,000 recorded in 2022. Key reforms include increasing English proficiency requirements, extending the settlement period from 5 to 10 years, prohibiting the recruitment of foreign care workers, limiting post-study work visas for international students to 18 months, and introducing stricter family migration rules through amendments to Article 8. These measures are intended to relieve pressure on housing, jobs, and public services. However, critics argue that these policies could negatively impact vital sectors such as healthcare and education, which rely heavily on foreign labor and international students. The Labour Party's adoption of these policies signals that migration deterrence has become part of mainstream governance. In the United States, the return of the Trump administration in 2025 has intensified the push for restrictive migration measures. New executive orders have expanded deportation programs, strengthened interior enforcement, and imposed tighter limits on asylum eligibility. The government has also introduced visa bans targeting officials from countries accused of facilitating irregular migration, and has restricted access for Chinese students in sensitive academic fields. Despite over 1 million asylum applications in the past 2 years, the policy direction has focused on exclusion and deterrence. Economists have expressed concern that these measures may undermine the U.S. economy, particularly as the population ages and key industries face labor shortages. Projections indicate that annual GDP growth could fall from 1.9% in 2025 to 1.3% in 2026 if migration continues to decline. Australia has taken a similar approach. Following a post-pandemic surge in migration that reached 536,000 in 2022 to 2023, the Albanese government introduced a 10-year strategy to reduce net migration to 250,000 by 2025. The strategy includes capping international student numbers, increasing financial and language requirements, and reducing eligibility for graduate work visas, especially for older applicants. While these changes are presented as necessary for easing housing pressures and protecting infrastructure, the opposition has proposed even steeper cuts. Across the political spectrum, there is growing agreement that migration levels should be reduced even as concerns persist about the long-term impact on Australia's workforce and economic growth. Poland offers a particularly revealing example of the migration deterrence trend spreading across party lines. Historically associated with right-wing parties like the far-right Confederation, the Nationalist Law and Justice Party, migration skepticism has now influenced the centre and left as well. After the 2023 elections, the new government, led by Donald Tusk, and the Civic Platform Coalition announced plans to tighten migration rules, especially concerning labour migrants from non-EU countries such as Bangladesh, Nepal, and Nigeria. This policy shift is motivated by growing public concerns over social cohesion, labour market competition, and cultural identity. Even though Poland's economy depends on migrant labour, particularly in agriculture and manufacturing, mainstream parties across the spectrum are aligning on a more cautious migration stance. This alignment illustrates how migration deterrence has moved beyond ideological divisions and become a normalized political response. When viewed together, the United Kingdom, United States, Australia, and Poland represent a broader global trend. Countries that once promoted open migration policies are now reconfiguring their systems to be more restrictive and selective. This realignment reflects domestic political pressures, economic anxieties, and changing public attitudes toward migration. Governments are responding to concerns about housing shortages, welfare strain, national identity, and social integration by reducing entry pathways and emphasizing control. However, the long-term consequences of this approach are serious. Migration plays a key role in supporting economic dynamism, addressing demographic decline, and filling labor market gaps. In 2023, OECD countries recorded a record 6.5 million permanent migrants. Yet many of those same countries are now imposing new barriers. Labor shortages in healthcare, agriculture, and services are already visible, and universities in countries like the UK and Australia fear major financial losses from declining international enrollments. In societies with aging populations, lower migration levels may exacerbate economic stagnation and increase pressure on public pension and health systems. In conclusion, migration policy has become a defining feature of the current wave of deglobalisation. Governments across the ideological spectrum are adopting restrictionist policies in response to voter concerns and shifting geopolitical realities. The central challenge ahead is to manage these concerns while maintaining economic resilience, demographic balance, and global cooperation. The future of migration will not only depend on who seeks to cross borders, but also on how states choose to open or close the gates.